The first question I have just pertains to the fact that you have been sitting in this office for 8 years, and you were elected at 22, which was, the youngest person elected to the board?
Yes.
The youngest woman. Okay. Basically, the question is, how have would you say your views have evolved on, I guess, a range of issues from, politics in general to just, your outlook on the city and county?
Well, yes. I mean, I think also times have changed. That was 2004, and now, it's a very different Milwaukee and Milwaukee County. Also I have, as a person, have grown. I mean, I've gotten married, I have stepchildren, so I'm seeing things a little bit differently. From 22 to 30 is quite a bit of personal growth. I think I've grown as a policymaker as well. I've learned over the years how, with that experience, how to get things done. I'm very proud of a couple of the major policy items that I've had implemented, and I can talk about that later, but that's something. I've kind of gone in and out of leadership on committee chairs and back and forth, and I am pursuing more leadership now. Also, of those 8 years, 7 of them was with County Executive Scott Walker. So going from Scott Walker to now Chris Abele is quite a difference as well. And one thing that I really enjoy is all the new communication that we had not had previously. And then just times changing. I mean, 8 years ago, an interview like this or social media or even emailing, things like that were a little bit different. So there's been a lot of changes, but politically, in my views, they've remained the same. I feel stronger than ever with some of the values that I hold. I think, our neighborhood, both of the neighborhoods, both Bayview and the near south side, have seen a lot of changes. So, but the issues, the county issues like quality of life, parks and transit have still remained a concern. And unfortunately, they're still a work in progress. We haven't been able to secure dedicated funding like we've wanted to, but the work continues.
Awesome. Basically, the next question is a follow-up to that, but could you talk about some of the programs that, if you are reelected, that you'd like to pursue, in the next year or term in general? Maybe a continuation of some of the things that you have worked on, like you said, transportation.
Yes, many of them are a continuation. Probably some of the 3 policy areas that I'm most proud of is my award-winning green print. Environmental sustainability is a passion of mine personally, and also is extremely important to the neighborhoods that I represent. And the green print is a 10-point piece of legislation that focuses on that sustainability. Milwaukee County having over 500 buildings, $1 billion budget, you can imagine our footprint. And so we've done a great job, especially on energy savings measures and updating our infrastructure. I want to continue that. In fact, I'm very interested in kind of introducing what would probably be like a green print version 2.0. Also, I've had some kind of, not necessarily groundbreaking, but extremely important for Milwaukee County domestic partnership benefits. I authored that, and I want to look at how we can continue to ensure people's equal and civil rights in Milwaukee County. I feel that that's extremely important. And lastly but not least, major items in transportation and parks, we truly need a dedicated funding source. The voters spoke a couple years ago in a referendum in a majority to pursue a small sales tax increase for a dedicated funding source, and the state has ignored us. And I really want to continue and take that push to another level, because I think that's what's going to save our system.
Switching gears a little bit back to the, I guess, more political side of things. Lately, there's been a lot of talk about transparency in local elections, specifically on a national level, obviously too. But are there any issues that you see within the county that you'd like to see changed, or some sort of processes that may be augmented to further facilitate that transparency?
Well, I feel this is a perfect question for me, because that's also something that I feel that I've been on the forefront. Domestic partnership benefits, environmental sustainability, and transparency. A couple of things that I'll note, and I'm very proud that I've not only supported, I've actually led the way. I was the author of the legislation which was adopted unanimously to place our campaign finance reports online. I think that's incredibly important to find out where money is coming from, and especially in local elections. So I'm very proud of that, and they are available now online. And then when it comes to general governmental transparency, I also am the chairwoman of our Information Technology Committee. And I believe that that's something too, being a little bit younger when I got elected. I was disappointed that we were lacking. We were very far behind. Things were still being done with typewriters and cassette tapes. Now we've implemented a program that's been used at the city called Legistar, and you as a citizen can go online and review all of the policies, our agendas, and actually through a budget amendment that I sponsored in this last 2012 budget, in the first quarter here, hopefully around March or April, you'll be able to actually view our committee and county board meetings online, so you don't have to come to the courthouse. You can see it at any time, late at night. I truly believe that we need to extend an arm so the public can totally participate, and that's important in public trust.
Awesome. All right, once again, we're going to switch up a little bit, but in 2010, you abandoned a brief bid for county executive office after Walker left for governor. Is this a position you have any interest in pursuing in the future, or?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for bringing that up. Yes, when that seat was vacated and it was open, I put some serious time into possibly pursuing that. There were many people throughout Milwaukee County that had asked me to look at that county-wide office. There's never been, to this date, a woman elected county executive. There were some candidates, someone who had the progressive vision that I have, and also who had the connections with important connections within labor. I think that's incredibly important. We're facing some serious fiscal challenges in Milwaukee County, and I'm very disappointed to see that there's been a divisiveness with our workers. I thoroughly believe in collective bargaining, and I think the only way that we're going to be able to overcome some of these obstacles are hand in hand in a team effort with our workers. So those were some of the issues why I was interested in pursuing that.
Okay.
It was very difficult for a county supervisor who represents 50,000 people to somehow broadcast and run county-wide. And as you know, our county executive, Chris Abele, is very wealthy, and unfortunately I didn't have the resources to compete. So it was a learning lesson for me.
Okay.
And I will consider that in the future, perhaps. I'm considering always any opportunity that's before me. Currently, what I'm considering is running for county board chairwoman, which is an internal election. And when I'm reelected on April 3rd, whoever's on the board with me will take a look at that. And I do think that many of the issues that I've stated earlier, transportation, parks, transparency, I'd like to take those to another level and be a leader of the county board.
Continuing on that note, I guess a lot of the local elections have been, I guess, more hotly contested than they have in years past. Is this something that you've obviously noticed, but what do you think, what would you attribute it to?
Well, I'm really excited that people, especially in my age range, in the 20s and 30s, are getting more engaged. I mean, you look at the Occupy movement, there's a lot of things going on the national and international level, and I think people are starting to pay a little bit more attention, and I welcome that. I'm excited to see that. I'm definitely seeing more people come to my town hall meetings. I have a town hall meeting every month. I'm getting more emails and phone calls, and it's also my responsibility as an elected official to make sure that I'm reaching out to everybody. And so, I have seen a whole new level of involvement, and I hope that that's shown as well when people go to the polls and vote on April 3rd. Well, February 21st, but also April 3rd.
Right. In 2008, you wrote an article opposed to the privatization of the airport. Mm-hmm. I just was wondering what your overall views are on privatization of, state or publicly held entities, whether it be land or
mm-hmm. Thank you for asking that. That's an extremely important question, and I actually believe that it's something that I differ with my opponent. And I feel very strongly, in fact, I have a record of proven results that when County Executive Scott Walker had produced many of these privatization efforts, I stood up and fought, because I'll lay it out here. When it comes to the airport or our parks, I cannot be any clearer about I'm adamantly opposed to the privatization of those public assets. The public has paid into, I'll use the museum or our county parks, our pavilions, our airport for many, many years. And to think that would just go over to a private entity is disappointing to me. Our airport, for example, is one of our best assets, and I'm not willing to sell it off to the highest bidder. It's also one of the best award-winning run airports in the country. It's growing very fast. So we're very proud of it. And actually, interesting fact about the airport, not a single property tax dollar, it actually runs itself through the revenues. So it's important, and I think it's a great example to show that Milwaukee County is running such an excellent airport. And when it comes to parks, I could not feel any stronger about being opposed to the privatization. Green space is incredibly important, especially in my community here that we represent, the South Shore Park area, in the near South Side. You know, people need parks. They want them. They want a safe, clean place to be with their family. And in an urban environment like this, it's really important real estate and space, and I think it should be maintained for the public to enjoy.
I guess the last question I have can follow right up on that, but basically to address the issues of the property tax levy. I believe Wisconsin's a fair market value state, which property taxes then have to reflect market value. From what I understand, or the little research I've done, that there has to be sort of an audit about every 3 to 5 years of the current housing market to adjust property taxes to, and that hasn't happened since about 2008. So we haven't really seen the effects of the drop in property values, I guess, at the bottom line of the levy. What steps is the county, is there anything that the county's prepared in advance of this coming possible drop in the
Right.
overall?
Well, the county's under major property levy tax caps right now due to the state.
Right.
The state likes to, or the governor, I should say, and the Republicans have said that they're tools. There's no tools. There are no tools. There are major cuts that have come down from education to transportation. And that's why I've been mentioning over and over the need for dedicated funding, because parks and transit can no longer survive on our property taxes. In fact, look near us and around us. Look in Chicago. They have, triple almost the sales tax. I'm not advocating for that, but we've got to find new sources of revenue through partnerships and bright ideas. We can not only rely on the property taxes. However, and I'm going to also bring this up, at times my opponent and previous people who I've had opposition from have brought up the fact that I have voted to increase property taxes, and I can tell you it's normally been in the cost of inflation between a 1% and 2%. And I can tell you why, because those are investments in our infrastructure. And I'm not willing, just for a soundbite that sounds exciting on talk radio and that conservatives like to use, I'm not going to play into that. I have an honest discussion. I do budget surveys. I have town hall meetings, and people know where their 2% are going. Milwaukee County makes up 17% of your tax dollar in the city of Milwaukee. And by that going up roughly 2% on an assessed $150,000 house, it's near $4 or $5, depending on other factors. And I think that that's an important investment when you're trying to adopt a socially and fiscally responsible budget. We provide services that no one else does. Mental health, programs for senior citizens, those are extremely important. And unfortunately, a lot of those programs and services don't make money. We don't make money taking care of the elderly or mentally ill, but it's definitely the right thing to do. And I will continue to fight for adequate funding of that.